I'm Nito the GNTG and welcome to Raging G. Last time we talked about the first two arcs of Sailor Moon, how Naoko introduced our characters, how we moved from the first arc to the second and how its plot point was introduced. At this point, Naoko and Toei Animation joined forces and made the Sailor Moon anime. So, with hundreds of episodes, movies, specials and all that managed to make millions of fans even to this day all around the world.
The anime had many differences from the manga, mostly having a lot more episodes with different small villains, expanding on the personality of each character, adding more action, more comedy, more romance, and more of everything. Basically, they expanded on every aspect, but they kept the central plot points. For now.
But before we talked about that, let's continue our small review with the second part of Sailor Moon.
Right now, we're having a small moment of peace, with Usagi, Mamoru and the rest of the Sailor Scouts relaxing and training Chibiusa that has obtained the Sailor Chibi-Moon transformation to become a full-fledged soldier. From the next chapter though, we immediately see a new threat appearing. We learn about a new school, Infinity Academy, and a few new characters, Haruka Tenno, Michiru Kaio and Hotaru Tomoe. This will play a major part, but we'll talk about them later. The Infinity Academy is the major plot point of this arc, with monster attacks that transform people into monsters, evil experiments, and all kind of danger originating from there. While the Sailor Scouts try to defeat the monsters, they notice two people escaping the scene. We find out that those are new Sailor Scouts, Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune. Later on, we find out that behind those Sailor Scouts are Haruka and Michiru, that want to distance themselves from the rest. This confuses the other sailors, since they don't know what their purpose is and if they are friends or enemies. We learn later on though that they are the outer sailors.
We will focus on that later though.
Plus, Haruka and Usagi have a weird chemistry, with Haruka kissing her at some point, this being the second or third person except Mamoru that has kissed her. At the same time, we see Sailor Chibi-Moon becoming stronger and better as a scout, and after saving Hotaru, they start a friendship. Unfortunately, Hotaru is sick and having many fits, and only a crystal that her father gives her can soothe her. The bride Chibiusa though gives her the silver crystal to help her, and it does. After that, Chibiusa, with the help of Mamoru and Usagi, create the Holy Grail.
Wait. It's a school project though.
But we all know it's not going to stay like that, because look at it, it begs to be a toy. So all the little girls and boys can play with it. Other than that, we see that Sailor Pluto is alive and disguised as a school nurse, named Setsuna Meio. She will help Sailor Moon and the other scouts with the help of Sailor Neptune and Sailor Uranus as the Sailor Scouts of the outer solar system.
Small break to explain the inner and outer sailors, how those two groups are responsible for protecting Queen Serenity and Silver Millennium.
The outer sailors are for faraway dangers outside the solar system, with a small and different set of items and powers, and they are older and a little bit wiser due to the dangers they have to face. The other group is the inner sailors, that are closer to Queen Serenity and have to protect her and Silver Millennium in close threads.
Moving on with the story.
We learn that Professor Tomoe is trying to develop superhumans, and in an accident in his research, his wife was killed and Hotaru was heavily injured. Then, the enemies entered the last phase of their plan, with Kaori Knight sending the last of the Witches 5, Cyprine, who creates chaos in the world, to the point of making the Sailor Scouts fight each other. Sailor Moon tries to stop them, but she can't. So her, Chibi-Moon, and Tuxedo Mask combine their powers and make the fake Holy Grail into the actual Holy Grail, an artifact that Chibiusa has seen her mother use. That newly created artifact managed to wake up the other Sailor Scouts, so they also begin pouring their energy into it, making Sailor Moon transform into her new form, Super Sailor Moon, who manages to defeat Cyprine rather quickly. The outer sailors decide to explain their true mission. They mention a Sailor Scout of the End, Sailor Saturn, that after the suicide of Serenity, she appeared and ended the life of everyone in the solar system. The only way of making Sailor Saturn appear again is at the end of everything. But they have found that she was reincarnated and resides inside Hotaru, so the outer sailors plan to kill her before allowing her to appear again. Chibiusa tries to warn Hotaru, but Hotaru manages to take her silver crystal, making her grow into a full death bastard. But she also took Chibiusa's soul, effectively stopping her heart. They rush her to the hospital and Mamoru stays behind, sharing his energy with Chibiusa, in an effort of keeping her alive long enough. The Sailor Scouts rush to defeat the newly created enemy, Mistress 9, that has swallowed the silver crystal as an effort to become even stronger. She begins summoning Pharaoh Master 90 to Earth, but thankfully Hotaru's soul stops her, protecting the silver crystal as well Chibiusa's soul from being devoured completely. At the same time, the Senshi managed to kill Professor Tomoe, that had transformed into a diamond. But when they reach Mistress 9, they are late. She managed to summon Pharaoh Master 90 and began fusing with the Earth in an effort to make the planet their new homeworld. The other Senshi used their talismans, creating a barrier to slow him down. Then, Hotaru managed to break free from Mistress 9's control, freeing and returning the silver crystal and Chibiusa's soul back to her. But her soul is erased in the process. Tuxedo Mask and Sailor Chibi Moon join the others and create another Holy Grail, raising both Sailor Moon and Chibi Moon into their super forms. Their attacks though manage only to make Mistress 9 stronger, that fuse with Master Pharaoh 90. As a last effort, Super Sailor Moon grabs her Holy Grail and jumps into the darkness, trying to destroy it from the inside out. Then, the talismans of the other outer Senshi glow, and Sailor Saturn appeared before them. She begins destroying Master Pharaoh 90 with an attack, saying that the Earth and everyone else is next. But then, Super Sailor Moon appears, and Sailor Saturn returns the weakened enemy back to his solar system and begs Sailor Pluto to close the portal with her being on the other side. After that, Sailor Moon uses her power as Serenity and brings everyone back to life, including a newborn Hotaru, that the outer Senshi promised to raise as their younger sister, and that they will return, ending the Infinity Arc as well.
So, how about that story though? First of all, we have the introduction of the Outer Sailors, a new rank into the Sailor Scouts. Then we have Sailor Saturn, that was hyped quite a bit, but was brushed off quite immediately. I do like the Outer Sailors though, because they are stronger, of course, and they have a more strategic build. You have Sailor Neptune, the Scout, who can see many things with her mirror. You have Sailor Neptune, the brute force, with her strength and her sword skills. You have Sailor Pluto, which is the brains of the team, and then you have Sailor Saturn, that is the end of everything if she wants, but we will talk about her a little bit later though. My problem with this, as you can see, is that it's filled to the brim with plotlines, new enemies, new forms, new items, new Sailor Scouts, everything. It doesn't have any breathing space and it doesn't allow the reader to relax a little bit between chapters. We jump from plotline to plotline, and even me trying to condense the story for my review resulted in a lot of information. Another thing is that the inner Sailor Scouts were getting pushed to the side due to the introduction of the new ones, including Tuxedo Mask, because he is kind of the Sailor Scout of the Earth. Yay for me. We also see how broken Sailor Moon is with her new form, Super Sailor Moon, bringing a lot of people back to life, including Hotaru's soul and body that were destroyed completely and cured all her medical issues. Lastly, the chapter's ending goes immediately to the next arc. Thankfully, this isn't a big arc, so we're not going to have another segment that big.
The first thing we learn is that the Sailor Scouts are now high school students.
Nothing that will play a major part, just so we can have a sense of progression in time and blah blah blah.
A good thing is that they are ready to bid farewell to Chibiusa, since he is a powerful enough Senshi, but as he is ready to go, an eclipse blocks the moon and a white Pegasus appears in front of them, asking for their help. In the eclipse, we meet our new enemy group, Dead Moon Circus. Their target, the Golden Crystal. So they put a barrier around the area that makes their Sailor Senshi unable to transform and blocks the way for Chibiusa to return to her home. Continuing the trend of the others being kinda useless, Sailor Moon and Sailor Chibi Moon got new brutes almost immediately and were able to transform. The rest would get a new brute and a new form, but again will stay only as a way for Sailor Moon to be able to reach her super form. But that's not all. Chibiusa sees in her dream the Pegasus I mentioned in the beginning of the arc, gives her the Crystal Carillion, a crystal bell that makes her able to call for his help when in need, and with his first appearance gives them a new weapon, the Moon Kaleidoscope. Now, about that golden crystal, simply put, is the star seed of Endymion that allows Mamoru to transform into Tuxedo The barrier made him sick, but it was sealed inside him as a way to protect both Mamoru and the golden crystal, but it was backfiring because of that barrier, to the point of coughing black blood. In this arc, we also have Sailor Moon and Sailor Chibi Moon change ages, making Usagi a kid and Chibiusa a teenager, with the anime managing to make a lot of funny moments.
Since I mentioned the anime, let's say a few things about it.
The previous arcs were trying to be close to the manga, but giving a ton of personality and chemistry to all the characters. But from this arc and henceforth, they began taking a lot of different approaches that in some cases made Naoko kinda angry, like with the case of the Starlights, but we'll talk about that later. For now, let's change the scenery and go to the outer Senshi that were living all together, raising Hotaru, and since she was growing with an accelerated rate, she was already a teenager that knew what was happening to the others and decided to join them. So, all the Sailor Senshis gathered and go to fight Dead Moon Circus and Queen Nehelenia. Nehelenia was pretty much the Dark Queen of the Moon, kinda like the dark version of Queen Serenity that was sealed from the former into a mirror. Because of that, she was able to live after the fall of Silver Millennium and form the Dead Moon Circus group. We also learn through Helios, the Pegasus, more about Elysian, the Kingdom of Earth, that was protected by the family of Endymion long before the fall of Silver Millennium, and Sailor Moon learns that the Golden Crystal is sealed inside Mamoru. Now, as the Sailor Senshi fight their biggest foe, they manage to collect all the energy from the other sailors, transforming them into their princess forms, making Luna, Artemis, and Diana humans for a bit, and taking all the energy from Tuxedo Mask, Usagi transforms into her strongest form yet, Eternal Sailor Moon. She then goes on to make all the other sailors into Eternal Sailors as well, and sealing the golden crystal from Mamoru's body, defeats and seals Nehelenia back to her mirror and banishes her and the darkness of the new moon. Ilias takes the newly restored golden crystal and makes Usagi and Mamoru into Neo Queen Serenity and King Endymion, and with their newly found powers, reverse and restored Nehelenia's 4 guardians into their Eternal Sailor forms. Those 4 were supposed to be the Sailor Guardians of Chibiusa, but Nehelenia found them early and made them villains, so now they bid farewell to Chibi Moon, saying that they'll be back once she becomes a full-fledged Sailor Senshi.
And with that, the Dead Moon arc is complete. While I enjoyed all this world building with Elysian, Queen Helenia, and how Chibiusa will have her own team, like Usagi has her friends, I think this is one of the most rushed arcs in the entirety of the Sailor Moon manga. Even though in this arc, each inner sailor had her own chapter, they were used again as a way to make Sailor Moon and Sailor Chibi Moon into a new form, a complete ass-pool that was able to defeat and restore everything and everyone, making the manga a huge mess and really hard to put it in a straight timeline and trying to explain how time works in this manga. Yeah, it was kind of tough into knowing what event goes where and all that stuff. Alas, we have one more arc to go through, so let's go into the final story arc of Sailor Moon, The Stars.
The first chapter is a wild ride, because apparently Mamoru was leaving for America to study, and right when he kinda proposed to Usagi, was killed right in front of her from the main antagonist, who takes the golden crystal as well. Because that was so sudden, Usagi gets a mild form of amnesia and can't remember what happened. Also, Chibiusa finally goes back home, leaving Usagi alone, thinking that Mamoru will write to her. We also see 3 new sailors right when we learn about a new idol group of 3 guys. As you can guess, those 3 are transferred into the same school as Usagi and the others, they are better in everything, and yes, they are the 3 new Sailor Scouts. Specifically, Sailor Star Healer, Sailor Star Maker, and Sailor Star Fighter, aka the Starlights. Unfortunately, when we see those 3, Sailor Mercury and Sailor Jupiter become dust as well, with the enemy grabbing their Sailor Crystals. We also learn that the enemies are Sailor Scouts as well.
Also, do you remember when I said that the anime made changes that made Naoko angry? Well, here is the biggest one of them.
In the manga, the Starlights were girls that were dressing up as guys, so when they were transforming, they were revealing their gender. In the anime, they were guys that turned into women in their sailor forms. Naoko has a strict policy of only girls becoming Sailor Scout, with Tuxedo Mask being the exception. The anime disregarded that policy, creating tension between their relationship. At the same time, a new character appears as well. She looks like a smaller version of Chibiusa, and her name, Chibi Chibi. She will play a role later on, but for now, she's a small cute thing. The Starlights try to force Usagi to remember what happened to Mamoru, and Sailor Venus and Mars are looking into those 3 new Sailor Scouts to see if they are friends or enemies. But before they find anything useful, they are destroyed by Sailor Galaxia, our main antagonist. Usagi sees this as well, making her faint from the sudden influx of memories from Mamoru and the others. We learn that there are a lot of Sailor Scouts from other galaxies, and that our galaxy isn't the only one with sailors. Plus, the Starlights inform Usagi that since the Sailor Crystals exist, the others aren't really dead. Also, another new transfer student comes that takes a liking to Usagi, Nyanko. But let's leave Usagi behind and focus a bit on Chibi Chibi, who protects an incense burner that contains Princess Kakyu. We will learn more about her soon, but for now, we see that Chibi Chibi is a Sailor Senshi. Soon, Sailor Moon learns from Nyanko that has transformed into Sailor Teen Nyanko, that the fake sailors are fighting them to take their Sailor Crystals, making Galaxia remove their bracelets, get their own planet since Sailor Galaxia has destroyed them, and become full Sailor Senshi. And right before Sailor Teen Nyanko is ready to kill Sailor Moon, and after heavily damaging Luna, Artemis and Diana, they were rescued by Sailor Chibi Chibi Moon. To add in all the confusion, Princess Kakyu says to Sailor Moon that she is the first princess of the Kinmoku planet and that the Starlights are its Sailor Scouts. She also says to Sailor Moon that Sailor Galaxia is a sailor of destruction who has destroyed a lot of planets, killed many Sailor Scouts taking their crystals, and manipulated many to follow her, controlling them with a bracelet and forming Shadow Galactica. But that was all a warm-up, because now she wants Earth and the Silver Crystal, the most powerful Sailor Crystal in the entire universe. While Usagi and Chibi Chibi return home, tired from the recent events, they are attacked by Sailor Galaxia, but Chibi Chibi manages to stop them. Then we see from a flashback that Sailor Galaxia was kinda manipulated from being called Chaos, that he knows the birthplace of the stars, Sagittarius Zero Star. Usagi wakes up and is fed up from all this, so she decides to go to Sailor Galaxia and fight her so she can save her friends and the universe. After leaving behind Diana, Artemis and Luna to her mother, with her mother started crying because Usagi acted like she wouldn't return home. And with the help of Chibi Chibi, Princess Kakyu and the Starlights, they leave for the castles of the other sailors. And after finding nothing, to Sagittarius Zero Star, Shadow Galactica. After facing many dangers, making Sailor Chibi Moon and her team travel from the 30th century to find them, and unfortunately losing the Starlights, Sailor Moon, with Princess Kakyu and Sailor Chibi Chibi, are still determined that they will find the Sailor Crystals and restore everyone. Joined by Sailor Chibi Moon and the others, they find Galaxia's castle, and at the entrance, the final guardians are waiting for them, Sailor Phi and Sailor Chi. After a fight, with Princess Kaiju transforming as well to Sailor Kaiju, they managed to defeat Sailor Phi, but unfortunately, Kaiju was struck from the back, dying at Sailor Moon's arms. And as they enter, they see Sailor Galaxia, with all her friends, including Tuxedo Mask, revived, with a bracelet on their arm. Sailor Moon manages to defeat all of them, being fakes and all, and she and Sailor Galaxia begin the final fight. We see Sailor Galaxia and Sailor Moon reaching the Galaxy Cauldron, the hottest place in the universe, where everything is born here, no matter how weak or strong they are. Galaxia throws all the Sailor Crystals she has gathered, effectively killing everyone, including Tuxedo Mask, subsequently Sailor Chibi Moon, since she disappears. This makes Chaos appear, who explains that he controls the dark stars and the cauldron, and every enemy Sailor Moon has fought was a part of him. They were sent through time and space to get the light that her silver crystal was emitting through existence. Sailor Chibi Chibi Moon tells Sailor Moon that the only way to defeat Chaos is to destroy the cauldron, effectively stopping new stars from being born and making the galaxy die slowly. We see Sailor Chibi Chibi Moon transform into a grown woman, with a star on her forehead, and Sailor Moon envelops herself in a warm light and dives into the cauldron. She combines her power with every Sailor crystal that exists in this place and manages to destroy it. Then Guardian Cosmos forms Sailor Moon that Chaos may return one day, and offers her two options. One is to return with her everyday life with her friends, but enemies can and will go after her, or stay here in the cauldron with other stars in their purest forms. Usagi chooses to go back to her everyday life, so Guardian Cosmos respects her wish and makes everything as it once were. So, Usagi and the others are reunited with Chibi Moon, who says that she will return to the 30th century, waiting for them. Then, we see Usagi and Mamoru getting married, with all their friends around them, and with Usagi being pregnant with Chibiusa, and with Mamoru saying that Usagi and Sailor Moon will likely be immortal, since she's the brightest, most beautiful star in the universe.
And this practically was the final arc of Sailor Moon. How was it? Let's ignore that every inner and outer Sailor was kinda useless. Again, I think this was a good ending. Galaxia was a reflection of Sailor Moon, of how she would end up if she had no friends. Galaxia was a nobody that wanted to protect her planet, so she was searching for the strongest Sailor crystal in existence, aka the Silver Crystal, but she was manipulated by Chaos. Also, Chaos was really interesting, because every enemy that Sailor Moon fought had a few hints and stuff that they were all connected somehow. But now, that small theory is confirmed. Chaos is a natural enemy, the circle of life, light and dark, yin and yang, chaos and the darkness, Sailor Moon and the light, destined to find forever and ever. The build-up was also really well made, with Usagi losing everything before the final fight, bringing despair into her heart, creating again a nice comparison with Galaxia, where she used her despair as a fuel to find the Silver Crystal. Usagi used the despair as a fuel to defeat both Galaxia and Chaos. Finally, since everyone is restored, the Starlights, Diana, Luna and Artemis may also be reborn because they were never mentioned or seen in the ending. It's a rust ending that left quite a few plot holes open, that we will never see a proper close-off or a proper send-off. And I do hope Naoko will someday release something like a final chapter, a final book, something. But she never hasn't till now, but I hope we will see something for her someday, eventually. Then we come to Sailor Chibi Chibi and Sailor Cosmos. In the manga we know that Sailor Cosmos is a sailor from the future, but not the 30th century, but a future even further beyond. Later on in an interview, Naoko said that Chibi Chibi is Sailor Moon of the future, and by default, because Sailor Chibi Chibi Moon is Sailor Cosmos is a futuristic version of Sailor Moon, the strongest sailor in existence. But a lot of people have theories and such, and it's a character that haven't appeared in the anime. Talking about the anime, I've heard that the last arc is different, but I haven't watched it yet, so I can't tell you for sure. I do know that the anime is completely different though, because it gave a lot of personality to its Sailor Scout, had a lot of episodes, had a lot of personality, comedy, action, and it gave that breathing space that I was talking about. And it wasn't that pedal to the metal story writing that the manga had. So, if you want to learn more and see or read Sailor Moon, I suggest you to see it, because it's a really nice experience and it has a lot of nice voice acting, it has a lot of great music and memorable moments, and all of this is things that I remember as a kid because I was watching it as I was growing up and I loved it. Unfortunately, it's a product of its time, so a lot of its aspects it's kinda timed.
The designs of the characters in the manga are really good, even though in many cases I feel like the mouths are kinda too high and I want to go to Photoshop and bring them a wee bit lower. The backgrounds in many cases are practically non-existent. I won't say it's badly drawn, no, never think that. But I do feel that if Naoko added some breathing space and added a few more chapters in between, it would have been a lot better. But wait, there's more. You see, the original release, there were small stories at the end of a few volumes, but when they re-released them, they decided to remove all those and put them in two neatly special volumes. Here, the art is better than the main series, there is a lot of comedy, and the stories are short and great. My favorites are The Lover of Princess Kaguya, that was even adapted to the Sailor Moon S movie, and Parallel Sailor Moon, that was set in a parallel universe, with many differences from the main series. All the short stories are great, but those two are my favorites.
And before we close off, do you know that Sailor Moon is the second part of the story that Naoko wrote? Because Naoko didn't write Sailor Moon first, but she actually wrote this. Sailor V, or in its full name, codename Sailor V.
This shows the adventures of Sailor V, the first Sailor Scout of the story. It's mostly comedic, showing Artemis and Sailor V fighting the enemy of the week, training to become stronger. There were small cameos of the other characters in the background here and there, and the peculiar thing was how Naoko was fascinating in showing Sailor V legs and her kicks. Don't know why, but she was kicking in almost every chapter. Again, here she is 13. At the end of the manga, Sailor V remembers her purpose, to protect Princess Serenity, sets her codename, and becomes Sailor Venus.
Again, this is a prequel to the Sailor Moon manga, and I suggest it for completionists and people that want something lighter and with a bit more comedy. Unfortunately, this is the only way to experience it, because even though that was a project into making a Sailor V anime, it never took off. And right now, I wouldn't want one, unless it was like Cardcaptor Sakura, with bringing a lot of the old voice actors back, having a lot of people behind it, music and such. But seeing how Toei works, that will never happen. Also, I'm done. First of all, this outfit is really warm. This was the entirety of the Sailor Moon. Of course, there are a ton more things around this, like anime shows, like movies, like dramas, like musicals, games, audio dramas, a lot of stuff. And I played and watched quite a few of these. The SNES beat 'em up is one of my personal favorites, and I totally suggest it for you to play it. It's great, it's simply great. Sailor Moon is a franchise that I hold close to my heart. Would I call this the best Mahou Shoujo series out there? Unfortunately, personally, I wouldn't, but I will call it one of the biggest, the most influential, that raised generations of people, men and women alike, made them watch a lot of shows, fall in love with these stories, with these characters, that made them pick a pen and draw them, pick a pen and write stories about them, cosplay as them, and have great moments. It's a show that I can't give it justice, and simply it's a monumental show that I totally suggest for you to see it or watch it or experience it with every way possible, because it deserves it. And this is the end of the episode. I want to thank each and every one of you, because recently I reached 300 subs and I wouldn't have done it with all your shares, your likes, your favorite. And please continue sharing and showing this video to a lot more people, because I love this, and this is why I love doing these episodes and doing these reviews and wearing these clothes into summer, and I'm sweating out there. And I'm NTG, and as always, keep reading. Also, I'm keeping this rose, but I want to throw it, but I won't, because it's a nice white rose. It smells great, and I'm keeping it here. Thank you, each and every one of you. I'm going to work into my 200-300 subscribe specials, and yes, again, thank you very much. See ya.